Hello everyone, John Alexis Guerra Gomez with Northeastern University, an online course, and these are some materials for week 12. So on this week, we actually start covering other concepts beyond just coding that are critical for you to incorporate into your projects and that you're going to need to include for your project 4, including web design, accessibility, usability, maybe a little bit of security. So let's get started with web design. On this class, basically, we are going to be talking about three main elements. Like the first one is what are the different design principles that we can use in general, and that can apply also for software development, how we can apply those as web design specifically, and finally, some techniques that we can use for evaluation. So let's get started. So for web design, or for design principles, we are going to be covering four main principles that I kind of want you to memorize in a way. So remember that they are going to be very simple. And they start with proximity, alignment, repetition, and contrast. These concepts come from like the Non-Designer's Design book that I strongly recommend you to read. It's a very easy read, and it is very quick, and it contains like many different concepts that we can use in general when designing software or pretty much any other product. They do have some examples in here, and those are the ones that we are going to be seeing that are coming directly from the book that they're using, like how to design, like for instance, the cover of a book. And in this case, we're illustrating like something like, for instance, proximity. The whole idea here in proximity is that you want to group together items that are related. So for instance, on this title on the right, you can see that we have the title and the subtitle, and then what they propose is like, let's actually get those together and let's get them closer. So by doing that, it's a little bit more cohesive and easier to understand, okay? Then the other idea, excuse me, is that you also want to try to avoid having like equal white space everywhere, okay? So when you're doing that, the whole concept is that if the space among everything is exactly the same, then that is kind of saying that all of the different elements are exactly the same, and we don't really want that, okay? The next one is going to be alignment. And in alignment, basically what you want to try to find is strong lines that actually help your users identifying how to follow or to flow through your website, application, or whatever that you are creating. In this case, one of the things that the author recommends very much is do not, like, try to avoid just using like automatic centering, which is kind of like the default option when you are going with like a word processor or something like that, and instead trying to go a little bit more risky to other areas. Most of our websites are going to be left to right and top to bottom, so it is important to remember, but keeping these lines really help on understanding those elements. So just by doing that, as you can see, the design is a little bit more elegant and it's easier to follow. So we have proximity for elements that are about the same type, and then alignment, that is the one that allows us to follow a certain path. Then the next one that you can use is the concept of repetition. And with repetition, basically what we are trying to do is to first have some consistency across your design, and second, try to kind of like double encode or reuse certain concepts that you're using in your design. So in this case, for the example they show like this element where it says where it goes around, and then it goes like this tiny triangle that is going to the right, and then says comes around, like just conveying the idea that is returning. And you can see that that same triangle is being used on the lower part. So using those subtle elements, and we are going to see that in web design a lot in colors or shapes or icons that can be kind of like part of the brand of whatever product you are creating, okay? Finally, you want to generate enough contrast, and in here what the author recommends is to be risky and to actually try to generate something striking that will help your users understand what is the main concept that you want to achieve with your design. So in this case, like he goes like, or she, they go like in a very strong way, like having these huge contrasts, black and white, to try to emphasize the fact that we have the round part twice, okay? In our designs, in our web design, usually we're going to be reflecting these just by having like clear headers or having like a very clear button that it's kind of like the main action that you want your users to take, and elements like that that are always helping that. So there you have them. Proximity, alignment, repetition, and contrast. And these basic elements are going to be the main ones that we are going to see in the next part when we talk about web design.